Headlines of VTV News. Prime Minister arrives in Melbourne for ASEAN-Australia Summit and official visit to Australia. Agro-forestry fishery exports surge in first 2 months. And later on in our world news, Australia pledges new funds for maritime cooperation with ASEAN countries.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello there, this is VTV News coming live to you from Hanoi, and here's the top news of the hour. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính, his spouse, and the high-ranking delegation of Vietnam arrived at Melbourne Airport at 9:20 p.m. local time on March the 4th to attend the ASEAN-Australia Special Summit to commemorate the 50th anniversary of ASEAN-Australia dialogue relations and official visits to Australia from March the 5th to the 9th at the invitation of Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. The guests were welcomed at Melbourne Airport by the Australian Minister for Government Services and former Labour Party leader Bill Shorten, Australian Ambassador to Vietnam, Vietnamese Ambassador to Australia, and other officials. The special summit-themed Partnership for the Future is an opportunity for the two sides to review the past 50 years of relations and exchange measures to develop their substantive and effective relations in line with the comprehensive strategic partnership established in 2021. The Australian side is expected to propose new cooperation initiatives. If the two sides agreed, there will be breakthroughs in bilateral relations. Continuing his working trip to the South Central Coast provinces, National Assembly Chairman Vương Đình Huệ met with the Bình Định Standing Provincial Party Committee on Monday morning. He praised the achievements of the party committee, authorities, and people of Bình Định over the past year and agreed with the tax plans outlined for 2024. During the meeting, he also listened to the province recommendations on expanding Phu Cát Airport and making the province a priority for wind power development. Earlier, the National Assembly chairman attended a ceremony inaugurating a project invested by the Investment and Industrial Development Corporation, or BKMX IDC, and the Vietnam-Singapore Industrial Park VSIP Group at the Nhân Hội Economic Zone, Bình Định Province. He witnessed the signing ceremony of investment cooperation between BKMX and VSIP Bình Định and partners with a total value of $49 million. Also during the trip, the National Assembly chairman offered incense and flowers at King Quang Trung at the Three Tayson Brothers Temple and visited heroic Vietnamese mother Lê Thị Khương in Quy Nhơn City. Vietnam always treasures its traditional friendship and comprehensive strategic partnership with Russia. Secretary of the Party Central Committee and Chairman of its Commission for External Relations, Lê Hoài Trung, said on March the 4th. Mr. Lê Hoài Trung made the statement while hosting a reception for Russian First Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Vladimir Titov, who is on a visit to Vietnam for the 13th Vietnam-Russia Diplomacy, Defense and Security Strategy Dialogue. He also discussed several measures to strengthen the bilateral ties in all areas with his Russian guest. The Russian diplomat, for his part, spoke highly of the positive development of the Vietnam-Russia relations and affirmed that Russia has attached much importance to consolidating and developing its ties with the Southeast Asian country. Mr. Vladimir Titov shared Mr. Lê Hoài Chung's recommendations to enhance the bilateral relationship in the coming time, particularly promoting high-level visits in 2024. Deputy Prime Minister Trần Lưu Quang received a General Director of Samsung Vietnam Choi Joo-ho in Hanoi on March the 4th. Speaking highly of Samsung's investment that has contributed to Vietnam's import-export revenue as well as economic development, the Deputy Prime Minister affirmed that the Vietnamese government has paid due attention to improving the domestic business climate to facilitate foreign enterprises' long-term production and business in the country. He praised Vietnamese Vietnamese engineers working at Samsung R&D Center, asking Samsung, with its considerable experience and capacity, to continue cooperation with the Vietnam National Innovation Center, or NIC, and help Vietnam realize its set goals of training 50,000 semiconductor engineers by 2030. During the first 2 months of this year, exports from the agricultural, forestry, and fishery sectors reached a turnover of $9.84 billion, surging over 50% compared to the same period last year. The trade surplus reached to $2.68 billion, nearly tripling the previous year. Key commodities, including vegetables, fruits, rice, coffee, forestry, and aquatic products, witnessed higher export values compared to the preceding year. Positive indicators in prices and market conditions are fostering opportunities for exports of these products throughout 2024.
The coffee industry has recently experienced unprecedented record-breaking figures. Just last week, the price of coffee surpassed $3.50 per kilogram, which represents a twofold increase compared to the same period last year. This surge in price has improved export turnover for the first 2 months of the year by 85%.
This February, although it took more than 10 days for the Tet holiday, we continued to export 14,000 tons, also a record. We plan to export an additional 18,000 tons in March.
The export market dynamics underwent a transformation, with the United States holding the largest share at 21.5%, followed closely by China at 21%. Europe and other markets collectively comprise 42%. These outcomes indicate that agricultural restructuring has been closely linked to the market.
The world market is still very large, such as the halal market with 2.2 billion people. Next May, chicken meat exports will be launched to this market, with an output of 1,000 tons per month.
Currently, Red Sea tensions are affecting freight routes from Asia to Europe and America, leading to increased time and costs. Despite these challenges, Vietnamese businesses remain optimistic, recognizing opportunities to adapt to the evolving circumstances.
This is an opportunity for dried goods and canned goods that can be preserved for a long time. They are also suitable for inflation and global tensions context, and will have better appeal to export markets.
The State Bank has recently announced an expansion of the credit package for forestry and fisheries loans. This preferential funding serves as a crucial catalyst in supporting the agricultural sector to attain its export goals for the current year.
Foreign shipping lines have just increased surcharges for imported and exported goods at Vietnamese seaports in February. While the loading and uploading prices paid by foreign shipping lines to ports are still relatively stable, about $55 to $85 per 40-foot container, these shipping lines increased the surcharge to about $180 to $200. There are also about 10 other surcharges increased. That presents the need for stricter management on surcharge prices for foreign shipping lines.
The freight fee for this business importing wood from Europe increased by over $500 per 40-foot container at the beginning of the year due to the impact of Red Sea tensions. Now, with the increased surcharges at seaports, the business is facing even more difficulties.
This surcharge increases keep coming, not just this time. Despite being a long-term customer, we have never received an explanation for the substantial rate hike by the shipping lines.
Vietnamese businesses commonly export FOB and import CIF. Consequently, proactive management of this cost remains relatively limited.
Vietnamese import and export goods are predominantly managed by foreign shipping lines. Vietnamese enterprises have minimal involvement.
At present, Decree No. 146 stipulates foreign shipping lines to disclose prices and external surcharges. The Ministry of Transport has proposed that the Ministry of Finance include shipping line surcharges for containers in the subject of price declaration within the draft decree guiding the law on prices 2023.
According to regulations, the state management agency will assess the price structure and determine if the costs are reasonable. If they are found to be inappropriate, feedback will be provided, prompting the shipping company to provide clear explanations for these costs in order to establish an appropriate price.
The Vietnam Maritime Administration will also enhance the management of shipping routes operated by foreign shipping lines. This involves amending Decree 58 on maritime operations management to mitigate instances where shipping lines arbitrarily increase surcharges, thus enhancing the efficiency of transport route management.
With more than 4,000 islands and a wealth of renowned landscapes, Vietnam has become an attractive destination for cruise tourism. In the first 2 months of this year, the country's cruise tourism industry grew 7 times higher compared to the same period last year. Cruise tourism is identified as a spearhead for Vietnam as the country aims to attract more wealthy tourists.
This is one of cruise ships carrying foreign tourists to Quang Ninh province every week. The locality is expected to receive about 60 luxury cruise ships this year.
We'll offer the best tourism services, including accommodations, for international tourists.
In the first 2 months of this year, this travel agency received 10 international cruise ships carrying nearly 30,000 tourists from Europe and North America.
Most of them are wealthy tourists who are willing to pay big bucks for cultural experiences in Vietnam.
China, Northeast Asia, Europe, and North America are potential countries with the highest number of wealthy tourists traveling to Vietnam by sea. To attract international tourists, Vietnam has waived visas for travelers from 25 countries and simplified immigration procedures of foreigners at seaports.
It takes us 3 seconds to complete the check-in procedures for a passenger at a seaport.
We understand that it's going to tackle many factors when it comes to safety and security, to having the ease and convenience.
Vietnam is aiming to strengthen cooperation with international cruise lines and transit centers to offer favorable conditions for foreign tourists during their journey to Vietnam.
We'll diversify tourism products and improve services to develop the cruise tourism, as we aim to attract more wealthy tourists.
Cruise tourists account for only 3% of the total number of international tourists to Vietnam. Therefore, improving infrastructure and services is a must for the country to develop the cruise tourism. Vietnam is aiming to attract 18 million international tourists by the end of this year.
Coming up next, labor exports help rural areas get out of poverty. And scrap dealers contribute to Vietnam's circular economy. You're watching VTV News. The 5G network is set to cover the nation fully this year. In September, the 2G network will be phased out, leaving only the 4G and 5G networks operational. Viettel Group has declared that this year will be a period of significant transformation. They plan to invest nearly $1.2 billion to expand frequencies, including connectivity systems to remote areas. The group also aims to strengthen international cooperation and focus on building large data center infrastructures. This will enable big businesses like Amazon and Microsoft to establish extensive data centers. Furthermore, they are prioritizing the implementation of digital transformation for the government, businesses, and society. The State Bank of Vietnam recently announced that QR code payment transactions in the country had reached nearly 183 million by the end of 2023. This represents an increase of over 170% in quantity and more than 74% in value compared to the previous year. Cashless payments are now a commonplace in Vietnam due to its convenience. This payment method is expected to see significant growth this year.
With just a smartphone, all payments and transactions can be completed using QR code technology, eliminating the need for a wallet or bank card.
This payment method is very convenient. I don't have to carry cash when I go out. It facilitates quick and precise transactions. I don't need to input account numbers or the amounts of money I need to pay for items.
Companies and business households find it convenient to use QR code payment methods. These methods save them investment costs, and their efficiency in managing and checking transaction histories is undeniable.
This payment method is quick and very convenient. Cashiers can easily check transactions. The POS system is costly and time-consuming. QR code payment is much more convenient.
The number of transactions using QR codes in Vietnam saw an annual growth of over 470% from 2018 to 2023. Given these impressive results, there will be a more comprehensive promotion of QR code development in 2024.
This is a payment method that has seen the highest growth rate in recent years. It has developed alongside the advancement of modern banking technology, with a high growth rate of over 180% compared to other payment methods. QR code payment represents a positive trend.
This year, this payment method is expected to reach more small and micro businesses.
Lào Cai province has set a target to have one stable income earner per household by 2025. This goal was set for the 10 poorest communes of the province. Besides the restructuring of crops and livestock, sending workers abroad has yielded positive results. This is an opportunity for workers from difficult areas to eliminate poverty for the whole family.
In just a few days, Marcy will fly to Taiwan, China to work after he completed all documents. For a person in the particularly difficult commune of Lar Pan Ton, leaving home to work far away requires strong determination.
I grow corn, rice at home. We have enough food, but I can't earn any money. I want to change my life for a better future.
Workers are supported with travel expenses, vocational training, and access to 100% loans from the Bank for Social Policies. Their salaries are significantly higher than those in farming, prompting many rural workers to opt for working abroad. With priority given to ethnic areas, 66 out of 235 workers in Lào Cai are from this mountainous district.
We connect with licensed companies and businesses to organize job sessions in local communes and towns. Through that, people have many opportunities to find information and choose the country to work abroad.
We want to ensure safety for workers when they go abroad. And when they return home, they can contribute to the local economy, in terms of foreign language or skills to improve the quality of life and contribute to poverty reduction in the locality.
Every year, Lar Pan Ton reduces poverty by nearly 10% of poor and near-poor households, thanks to remittances from workers abroad. Promoting and supporting labor export is a solution to help Lào Cai reduce poverty quickly and effectively.
Collecting scrap metal to earn money remains an informal job in Vietnam. However, despite rapid urbanization, scrap dealers maintain a livelihood as they can earn a stable income from this job. Very few people are aware of the importance and contributions of scrap dealers in the country's circular economy and the recycling of waste materials. Every day, more than 5,000 tons of garbage is transferred to landfills. Some is burned, while the majority is buried. Scrap dealers are always the first ones to collect and sort garbage.
From 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. every day, hundreds of kilograms of plastic, nylon, or iron scraps are purchased on this street. Trucks carrying hundreds of tons of scraps will then head towards recycling facilities.
We can collect 1 ton of cardboard per day, and around 2 tons of plastic every 3 days. We can earn money from selling these plastic bottles and beer cans.
These women started to make a living in Hanoi with a bicycle and less than $40. Every day, they wander around streets in search of scrap metal.
I need to classify scrap metal before selling them to recyclers.
Living a hard life in the capital city, scrap dealers have contributed to the recycling of waste materials in Vietnam.
I collect more than 100 kilograms of scrap metal every day.
After 6 years of research, the Hanoi Architectural University introduced a book about scrap dealers in Vietnam. Despite a low-income job, collecting scrap metal proves its worth to the society in terms of environmental protection.
Scrap dealers are unique in Vietnam. They play a key role to the recycling process, including garbage collection, transportation, and classification. Scrap dealers' activities will lay a foundation for Vietnam to develop its circular economy.
About 15 to 20% of total household solid waste can be recycled. Scrap dealers can collect a large number of recyclable waste materials before they are transferred to landfills to be buried and burned. Scrap dealers have helped the government reduce 20% of the total domestic waste recycling cost.
Scrap dealers are very good at sorting plastic waste. The government should recognize collecting scrap metal as a job and provide training for scrap dealers to enhance their skills.
There are nearly 3 million people working as scrap dealers and garbage collectors in Vietnam. They are expected to contribute significantly in the country's environmental protection in the future.
Vietnam, the only representative of Asia, has ranked 5th in a list of the 10 best graduation trips to take in 2024 by Lonely Planet. Other countries on the list include Mexico, the US, Greece, and Costa Rica. According to the travel magazine, Vietnam is the affordable, beautiful, and warm country which will get graduates out of their comfort zone. Highlights by the magazine are Vietnamese tourist destinations such as Hanoi, Ha Long Bay, Ho Chi Minh City, and the Mekong Delta. Coming up next in our world news, Australia pledges new funds for maritime cooperation with ASEAN countries. And Malaysia may restart search for flight MH370. Australia said on Monday that it would set aside more funds for maritime security projects with ASEAN countries amid security issues in the region. Speaking at the Maritime Cooperation Forum, which took place within the framework of the ASEAN-Australia Special Summit 2024 in Melbourne, Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong said the Australian government would invest 64 million Australian dollars over the next 4 years, including 40 million US dollars in new funding. The new commitment will contribute to the security and prosperity of the region, consistent with the priorities of Southeast Asian countries. The maritime routes through the East Sea are crucial for trade for Asian countries. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese emphasized Australia is proud to be ASEAN's first dialogue partner, sharing 50 years of mutual respect and cooperation with its friends in Southeast Asia. Building Australia's links with the countries of Southeast Asia is a priority for the Australian government. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim said on Monday he would be happy to reopen the search for missing Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 if compelling evidence emerged. His remarks came as the families marked 10 years since the plane vanished in the Indian Ocean with 239 people aboard. On March the 3rd, around 500 relatives and supporters of passengers on the missing Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 gathered at a shopping center in Kuala Lumpur for a day of remembrance. Speaking at the event, the Malaysian Transport Minister said the Malaysian government is committed to the search for MH370. In 2018, Malaysia signed an agreement with a US-based seabed exploration company, Ocean Infinity, to resume the search, but they did not make any progress. Oil prices saw an increase on Monday following an agreement among the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies, OPEC+, to extend voluntary oil output cuts until the end of the second quarter. Brent crude futures saw a 0.26% increase to 83.83 US per barrel. Meanwhile, West Texas Intermediate crude futures increased by 0.15% to 80.17 US per barrel. OPEC Plus extended voluntary oil output cuts of 2.2 million barrels per day into the second quarter of this year. This move aims to stabilize oil prices amid global economic concerns and rising output outside the group. Russia said it would cut its oil output and exports by an additional 471,000 barrels per day in the second quarter. According to experts, output cuts by the OPEC Plus alliance will continue to reduce supply as the market worries about escalating tensions in the Middle East. The sharply declining birth rate in Korea is projected to result in the closures of approximately 1/3 of daycare centers and kindergartens in the country by 2028, according to a report by the Korea Institute of Child Care and Education. The main reason is that the country's low birth rate has affected all aspects of life.
These children graduating from kindergarten were born in 2017, the year when Korea's birth rate exceeded 1 for the last time.
There used to be 50 graduates, but now there are far fewer children, only around 14.
When these children began elementary school, the number of new elementary school students in the capital region have visibly decreased.
There were 47 new students last year and 43 this year. The number is probably going to decline further.
There used to be 24 new students last year, but now there are 18, almost 1/4 fewer.
Schools with fewer than 2 classrooms per grade are considered small in size. Such schools increased steadily over the past 10 years in Seoul's suburbs. Closed kindergartens and childcare centers are replaced with facilities for the elderly such as nursing homes. In one area, 3 out of 4 kindergartens along this 1-kilometer stretch shut down. By 2028, the number of infants and toddlers would fall by over 30% and roughly 12,000 kindergartens and childcare centers closed down.
It will become likely for elementary, middle and high schools to close down successively, causing nearby infrastructure to deteriorate as well.
South Korea's combined birth rate fell from 1.05 in 2017 to 0.65 in the fourth quarter of last year. Concerns over the worsening educational environment from school closures have further discouraged people from having children.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. And that's it for this edition of VTV News. Thank you very much for watching. To rewatch our program, you can download VTVgo from App Store or Google Play or tune in our YouTube channel at youtube.com/VTV4Go. See you again at 3 p.m. local time. Goodbye for now.